Today's collectible spot, we are having a look at the Hot Toys The Amazing Spider-Man 1/6 Scale Collectible Figure. Before we actually have a look at the figure itself, the box itself is really impressive. Feature on the front is Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man swinging through the city sky. It's really nice detailing on the buildings themselves, and I like the fact that the buildings are like a bluish coloring that really makes the detailing on the Spider-Man come out. You may or may not see it, but actually if I just tip the box to the side here, there is this overlay of a webbing that's been put on the box itself. You can kind of see it more so near the bottom of the box, but just a really nice added detailing. On the side it says Amazing Spider-Man, and it's got this black panel shoe. Well, essentially it's a shoebox style box that it comes in, whereas the back side of the box is in this the red coloring, and then the front is in the more blue coloring of the Spider-Man figure. On the back, 1/6 Scale Spider-Man Collectible Figure MMS 179 Hot Toys Presents Movie Masterpiece Series. Shows the cast and crew responsible for the sculpt and execution of the figure. The head sculpt, by the way, is done by Im Jung Hyuk, Hyuk, and head painter JC Hong. So, of course, some warning hazards as well, warning choking hazards. I mean, it does contain some small pieces. The product is suitable for ages 15 and up. Please read these instructions carefully before you open this product. This product is not suitable for children under 3 years old due to small parts which may cause choking hazards. So, going back to what we were looking at initially, the box itself is a shoebox style. In other words, it doesn't actually have a flip panel as some of the other Hot Toys pieces does. Or do. We just flip the panel up here, take the top box panel off, and on the inside you've got a really nice picture of Spider-Man right there. The read-up says, ever since Peter's parents disappeared, he has struggled to find his purpose in life. Now on the brink of unlocking the mystery about what happened to them, he must face the ultimate challenge, one that has been created within the laboratories of Oscorp. We can take this section off here, this extra panel piece, and inside you've got yourself Spider-Man with his additional hands, the Andrew Garfield head, and of course a display base. What I am going to do though is I'm going to take a break. I'm actually going to get this all out of box, and when we come back we're going to get a better look at the Amazing Spider-Man 1/6 Scale Collectible Figure. There's more heading your way, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. When opening up your Spider-Man, you also get yourself some instructions and warning guides. Be sure to read those when handling and displaying your Spider-Man. Some really crucial points to make. One of which being the figure's arms can only be raised at 80 degrees. So, I mean, while the figure is superposable, definitely still caution should be made when handling the figure itself. He does come with his display base, and featured on the front it says The Amazing Spider-Man, with Spider-Man in a placard on the front of the display base. Still has the adjustable neck that you can bring up and lower for the figure to be housed on. Putting that to the side, you also get yourself several accessories. For obvious reasons, you get yourself some display pegs, some hand pegs to change out the hands for Spider-Man. He does already have hands featured in his arm sockets, but they do give you extra ones just in case anything happens to him, that you've got some backups. Before we have a look at the hands, and the webbing, and everything else that makes up the figure, let's actually just have a look at the figure itself, because the figure is gorgeous. It is a gorgeous piece. Spot picked this up. Now, this is to some extent, a re-release of the initial Spider-Man figure. If you're one of the individuals that picked up this Amazing Spider-Man figure the first time around, there were some slight errors, some slight issues with the shoulder sockets of the Amazing Spider-Man figure. There were a couple of cases where those sockets broke, and luckily Hot Toys has revisited this figure and have fixed the issues that were plaguing the shoulder socket. The only thing I would have said, though, it would have been nice had, because they've made the changes and they've gone back and fixed, which I really appreciate the fact that they've gone back and fixed any issues that were with the figure. But I would have liked if they had indicated somewhere on the box whether they had re-released this figure with a couple of other accessories, whether they had called the figure a 1.0 or something to that nature. And the reason why I say that is because if they had fixed any issues that were plaguing the first figure, the early initial release of him, if you had bought him in a store, or if you bought him online, as a collector, you would definitely want to make sure that you're buying the figure that has the fixed issues on the figure and not the initial release. So perhaps if they had indicated somewhere on the box that, you know, this was, say, a 1.0, even if they had given some accessories that as a collector, when you're going back and buying the figure again, you know right away which figure you're getting. You're getting one that has had a retool and has a corrected issue with the shoulder, that you're not going to have the same issue that you had before. But it's a gorgeous piece. The head sculpt is just phenomenal. Now, Spot, there was a couple of Hot Toys figures that really has made my list of ones that I really want to pick up. And Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man in this first suit, was one that was near that top of the list. Personally, I've always loved this costume. I know some people probably don't like it because it's got more of a, almost like a, I don't know, like a wetsuit look to it, which I think some people probably just don't care for. The new Amazing Spider-Man suit is much more classic to the Sam Raimi line of movies, and also more, I'd say, iconic to the original comics of line of Spider-Man. But I really like this interpretation where you had this suit, and it kept elements very similar to what we would expect with Spider-Man, and it just changed some elements to it. Things such as the gloves, where the gloves had individual finger portions to it and different palm sections to it, whereas the regular hands would have just been an all red webbed hand. The same can be said for the webbing that carries over from the side sleeve, and in this case we've got this separate panel line that runs all the way up to meet the shoulder of the Spider-Man figure. The new Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2, obviously is more classic to the original comic colors. But I like this. I really like this costume. I like the details that Hot Toys have put right into it, all the way down to, if we go right into the details of the webbing itself, you can see that it's still kind of got this, I always say it's like a basketball style of material. Looking at it, to me, it reminds me of a basketball, where it's got that textured, almost like a rubberized look design to it. At the side, though, it's got more of almost a wetsuit look to it. As well, the Spider-Man logo is a little bit different than what we would have gotten with the original design of the Sam Raimi comics. But once again, just details that Hot Toys have put into this piece are phenomenal. The face sculpt, let's bring the camera up here. The face sculpt utilizes the yellow eyes, which is another touch that I really enjoyed with the movie. I know we've gotten white-eyed Spider-Mans before, and it looks like we are going to be getting it with Amazing Spider-Man 2, but having the original Spider-Man with the yellow eyes also really goes back to his original comic designs, where he had smaller eyes, but there weren't quite a white that we would have seen later. Now the head itself, the head that's on this piece is a sculpted in head. The material is adhered to the head itself, so you can't remove this headpiece. If you did, it probably would be just a standard, just a bald head underneath. But they've put the suit over top of it, which means when you rotate things such as the head, you can see that the material flows perfectly as if it would on a regular, if you were wearing this suit. There is the back side of the head, and you can see the stitching where the head cowl, the mask, has been seamed onto the true type body that's underneath here. But the detailing on the eyes is just great. I love this kind of, it's almost something like a beehive look to the eyes, where they're yellow, but they're like a goldish, almost a greenish gold coloring, and then you've got the outlined black really finishing off the sculpt of the face. If this is particularly not the way you would like to display your Spider-Man, you really think to yourself, I really would like to display him with a Peter Parker head. He does, luckily, he does come with a secondary Andrew Garfield head, which likeness-wise, I think they've really hit it on the nail on the head with this sculpt. Unlike other Hot Toys pieces that rely on a ball socket, the Andrew Garfield head as well as the Spider-Man head rely on a clip. To remove it, you're just going to take the head here and you're just going to pull it off. You can see that it's more like a clip than it is a ball joint socket. It makes changing the heads out a lot easier. Again, when we put the Andrew Garfield head on, it clips on very easily. I guess my only nitpick is, though, when you start rotating things such as the head, you can see where if you start putting too much pressure to the side, it tends to want to come off of that clip. So you kind of have to keep pressure down when you rotate the head to prevent the socket seam from showing. The socket I don't think is as finished when you have the Peter Parker head on as what you do with the Spider-Man, because the Spider-Man looks more like it is the fabric material, whereas the Peter Parker head is the same material, but it's more like a plastic version of it, so it doesn't sit as well on the seam there. The hair is done extremely well. One of the better hair sculpts from a Hot Toys piece. And while some people don't really like the fact that the Andrew Garfield head does have the additional scratches to it, due to the nature of what the body type is that you're getting with it, and because he doesn't have any alternate clothing, I can justify why you would have those scratches on the face. If there was a Peter Parker that you could get interchangeable clothing for, and you could put Peter Parker in his regular high school attire, I could see maybe why those gashes wouldn't be necessary, but because you're having Spider-Man in his spider suit anyways, those gashes don't bother me at all. Likeness, though, I think of Andrew Garfield, it looks like Andrew Garfield. A matter of real preference, but I still would prefer, and I'm just going to take the clip off here, I still would prefer the classic Spider-Man head versus the Andrew Garfield. But variety and options are always appreciated, and I'm glad that Hot Toys did include those. Speaking of other accessories, his hands, just move the arms forward here. The arms themselves, he has open hands right there with his spider web shooters right underneath there. They are glued to the arm, and I don't feel as if I'm going to have any issues with those coming off, but as always, some caution should be made. The other hands that Spider-Man does come with, while you do see he has the open hands, he does also have closed fists, which I'll show you in the camera here. He does have closed fists. He does also have two pairs of more open, I call these movie poster dynamic hands. Something that you would also see in the original comic covers as well, where he's got these open hands. He's got two of these. And finally, he's also got his web shooting hands. Now, let me show you how those work right now. You can take the hands themselves and just wiggle them. Just do a little bit of wiggling to pop them off of this peg. And once again, I'm glad that Hot Toys, they do give us the extra pegs here. But for example, if you want to change out the hands, you just peg these back into place. He's got very, and it also helps Spot put on the right hands here. He's got very small pegs, so I would say be careful when putting these on. And then you have Spider-Man with his open hands. I love this. I love this kind of hand. I'm going to guarantee to have him at least with one of these hands on, just because I think it's just a good look for him. He does also include webbing. He does come with two pairs of webbing, one of which being a web shooting web. And before we put that onto the Spider-Man figure here, I just want to show you the close details on that web. The web itself has a little bit of silver to it, where it's not just a straight clear web. You've got some nice silver detailing going in there as well. On the other side of the web, there is a ring. So the idea with these is that you're going to take the hand, and let's just do it with the other hand here for a second. You're going to unpeg it. You're going to take the web that has this ring, and you're going to slide it just like so, slide it over that hand peg where the hand is going to go. And what you're going to do, let me just see if I can get both hands going on here. Oops. You're going to just take the, slide it on like that. And you get something that looks like this. So you really have to just adjust and rotate that ring slightly to get it lined up to the web shooter, and then you can run the web right through Spider-Man's fingers to give him the look as if he's shooting his web. It's not a very far web, but it's just enough, especially depending on whether you want to even use these hands. You can get some really nice dynamic web attack. He does also have much larger webbing, which really doesn't have a ring, so you don't have to peg it into the peg. You can just have him straight out holding the web. This is really ideal, especially if you're having Spider-Man hanging. You can kind of make it look as if he's hanging from the web, and it's still that same really nice clear web that they've included. I'm just going to take the hand off here, and take the ring off also. And you know what? Let's put on his web shooting hands. You have to just slightly pull the sleeve up too when you put the hands in, and then you can tuck them back around. And you've got, of course, you've got Spider-Man in his iconic web shooting hands, or gestures. Now, articulation on the Spider-Man is the same. It's a true type body, so you have a 30-point articulated body frame. His head rotates up and down, and you can see the issue by having it on this clip. But the head does rotate up and down, left and right. And I find sometimes it's easy just to hold the neck sometimes and rotate the head. His shoulders hinge out, hinge forward, hinge back. He has a rotation in the bicep. He has a double bend in the elbow. He has a rotation and hinge in the hand. He has an upper torso crunch, which allows the body to rotate left and right. Now, because he is a suited figure, of course, some caution when handling and rotating this too much. The legs hinge forward, back, out. He has a rotation in the thigh. He has a double bend in the knee, which is one thing I'm really glad they included with the Spider-Man. And this is one of the best cases where a double bend in the knee really benefits to the pose of how you're going to have your figure. He has a rotation and pivot in the foot. I figured with Spider-Man 2, now, right around the corner to some extent, this was an ideal time for us to have a look and for me to bring you my review of the Amazing Spider-Man figure. Again, whether you like the Amazing Spider-Man first costume, personally Spot really loves this suit. This is an ideal figure to pick up. If you're a Spider-Man fan, definitely I would say pick this up. Now your best bet though, again as Spot had already mentioned, because this is a corrected issue that they had with the original release Spider-Man figures, I'd say your best bet probably is to either order them in places where the figures have been just recent released, or your best bet also is just check out Sideshow Collectibles where you can order the figure directly. And that's actually what I did. I ordered mine directly so that I knew that I was going to get the updated figure and not the original released Spider-Man suit. The beauty of it, too, is when you're ordering from Sideshow Collectibles, you can also pay by installments, which is one of the things that Spot did as well. But I'm very happy that I was able to pick him up. I can't wait to put this on the shelf with the other Hot Toys pieces that I have. And I am very, very happy that I was able to bring this review to you. Today's collectible spot, we're having a look at the Hot Toys Amazing Spider-Man 1/6 scale collectible figure. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more Hot Toys figure reviews heading your way. And as always, I'll see you next time.